Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Friends List. Very special episode for you today. We are discussing a very interesting game. I have not played it personally, but I wanted to invite a special guest on the show who has seen it firsthand and can speak to it. Welcome, Mike McWhertor. Very happy to have you here.
Hey, thank you for having me here, Russ Frushtick. I'm in the New York office, which is a rare treat for me, but I'm fortunately here in time to talk to you about Sunset Overdrive.
Sunset Overdrive. I know this is a game.
Yeah.
I feel like the first time we saw this game was at last E3 during Microsoft's press conference. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. They showed Insomniac Games, the developer, showed a pre-rendered cinematic teaser trailer of Sunset Overdrive at Microsoft's Xbox conference. It's an Xbox One game.
Yeah.
And just a couple weeks ago, I went to Burbank, which is where Insomniac is headquartered, and got to play the game, got to talk to the people involved behind it, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of it in the next couple weeks and leading up to E3.
Yeah, that's exciting. So I remember when I first saw the game, like stylistically, it looked like very over the top, very colorful, which is always a good thing we see in next gen games, not being like dark and gray and brown and gross. It's like very colorful. And I also sort of like a cartoony art style. Is that still the case with the game?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a very strong cartoonish, colorful aesthetic to this. It's which is maybe a little bit surprising because I don't know if you know this, but this is a post-apocalyptic video game.
Wow. They
yes.
tend to be the brownest and grayest of them all.
Yes, and Insomniac is very clear in rejecting a lot of post-apocalyptic tropes. It's a very colorful, vibrant game set in a very dynamic city, and what you're doing in the game, instead of kind of just eking out a depressing survival existence, you're supposedly having the time of your life. This is kind of an awakening for you because your real life is kind of shitty.
Sure.
And when you get caught up in this post-apocalyptic event, that's when you really start having fun. And Insomniac they have a couple like repeated descriptions of the game. They call it fun in the end times, the rock and roll apocalypse, and the awesome apocalypse, which is I think what they've really settled on. Like they want this to be this awesome fun time, even though pretty much the world has gone to complete shit.
And obviously the title seems to be a nod to that, sunset being the sunset of our humanity. But it's an overdrive, so it's like insane, right?
Well, the overdrive, I think you're
you don't think
reaching
that's
a little
like
bit, but
a
I'll
double
work with you
meaning
on
thing
this.
going on?
Yeah, it might be. I think it's I think it's like that's like kind of sunny, vibrant, colorful, sunsets are like that.
Sure.
And the overdrive, I think, is related to the kind of amped up atmosphere of the game, some of the mechanics. It's all kind of pinned on, the apocalypse is pinned on this one energy drink, and I believe it's called Overcharged Delirium XT.
Okay.
And what that is it's a new energy drink from a company called Fizzco, and Sunset Overdrive takes place in the aftermath of the launch party of this new energy drink because a bunch of people drink it. Things don't go so well after that, and everybody starts mutating into these weird freaks.
Did they not test it, or is it more of like a world domination sort of plot?
That remains to be seen. So from what I know, the company releases this energy drink, and maybe things don't go as well as they planned because they basically wall off the city to try and contain the outbreak. So I don't know if it's planned. I think that's one of those things. Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah,
as we play the game.
I know we can't show off gameplay quite yet.
Right.
But we were taking a look at some gameplay that we're going to be seeing maybe in the near future. And it did have, at least stylistically, I mean, you were talking about apocalyptic setting, but still very colorful. Similar tone in terms of like the Dead Rising games.
Yeah, very much so. There's like, I think a kind of a crude humor that they're trying to work into the game. Like some of the locations that you go to, like one of the restaurants is called Sex Burger.
Okay.
And if your children are listening to this, then you might want to turn this off because I'm about to tell you what happens at Sexburger.
Please.
No, I don't know that too much happens, but it's one of the businesses, and they've got this
What
kind of
happens there stays there is what you're saying.
right. They've got this kind of immature humor kind of running throughout the game. And Sexburger on the menu, you can apparently purchase Clitator Tots.
Oh my word! Michael
Fish
McWhertor
tacos are on the menu. This is not. I didn't come up with this stuff. Okay, this is all on Insomniac. So send your letters to them. They're in Burbank.
Yeah, you mentioned Insomniac, which is kind of funny because like they're a little bit. I mean, they do like their puns. Don't get me wrong.
They sure do. They do not shy away from innuendo and game titles that are referencing genitalia.
But I would also say like all of their games, for the most part, at least all the Ratchet games are very family friendly. Like we're talking like 10-year-olds would be.
They are, yes.
This sounds like not so much.
Yeah, maybe not so much because there is a gun in the game that's like an AK-47, but it's called the AK Fuck You Up.
Oh, okay.
And this is during my preview. This is the most time I think I've ever heard anyone at Insomniac drop the F-bomb, and it was pretty frequent. Yeah, it's in the game. They describe Sunset Overdrive as the kind of game for someone who likes Insomniac games and grew up on Insomniac games. So this is kind of, targeted more at like teenagers and young adults than it is the kids who would play a Ratchet and Clank game.
Sure, because now that I think about it, I mean, it's been over 10 years since the first Ratchet and Clank game came out.
Yes,
around there, which is a little bit terrifying. But yeah, I mean, these people, I remember.
But it does have kind of that irreverent humor and atmosphere and lighthearted fun nature to it, like Spyro and Ratchet and Clank. But it's also got kind of the gameplay, the more mature gameplay mechanics and action and violence of Resistance and Fuse. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like bringing together a lot of elements from all the Insomniac games in the past and kind of putting them into one big crazy little package.
Sure. So, in terms of the structure of the game, you mentioned it's an open world game. Is it similar in terms of structure of like games like Infamous, where it's like little missions that you go to and you finish and then but most of the game, or is it more free form like a game like Crackdown?
I think you could use either of those games as examples of what this is about, because there are missions. There's an overarching story that goes along with it, but you can engage in side missions and small activities like in almost any open world game. So I'll tell you what I did when I played it. The main thing that they wanted me to do was basically work my way through a part of the city, killing a bunch of the mutated enemies. They're called OD'd, or overcharged drinkers. And I basically climbed a tower, bounced my way and grinded my way up this tower, and fought a giant balloon mascot of the character Fizzy, who's the spokesperson mascot for Fizzco.
Okay.
And so, I fought a lot of OD'd along the way. I was grinding on rails and power lines and roof edges and things like that, shooting a bunch of things with a variety of weapons. And I defeated the boss, and then basically I was given the opportunity to just kind of run around the city and do whatever I wanted. There were some activities in the build that I played. You could go to a comic book store and you could get a mission from the guy there who would say, go and find these 5 comics that I've lent out to people who have since become, mutated OD'ds. And so, kill these 5 guys, get the comic pages, bring them back, and the guy gives you some cash.
Sure.
And then there were like small kind of one-off activities I could do. One that was called Smash TV, which was...
It seems like an issue there in terms of a legal issue.
Yeah, I don't know that that's going to be the final name of it, but we'll see. It might be called Smash TVs. But yeah, it's basically like, hey, you get 90 seconds, destroy as many of these TVs as you can, and then you get, some bonus. So, I think there's going to be a lot of main narrative-focused activities, and there's going to be a lot of side activities where you can just go around, have fun, and screw around with things.
Is there progression at all?
There is. Well, I don't know that there's necessarily like character leveling.
Okay.
In certain ways, you can unlock these things called amps. and you can craft guns. Like you can get recipes and put together guns because all the weapons in the game are kind of built from everyday objects. So there's one weapon in the game that's called the TNT Teddy, and it's basically made of like a power drill and a lampshade.
Wait. Okay, this is starting to sound a lot like Dead Rising, like a lot.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's not as explicitly crafty as Dead Rising
Okay.
is. It's basically like, hey, you get this recipe, and hey, you got the weapon already.
Oh, I see.
That's how I understand. It's
Got
not
it.
like go and hunt down all
Sure,
these,
sure.
elements. So it's basically like you just unlock these things over
Yeah.
time. So yeah, you can get all these weapons, and then you can unlock these things called amps, and some of those amps modify your attacks, how weapons behave, and some of those amps modify like how you traverse through the world. So like you can bounce off things like umbrellas and air conditioner units and cars. And sometimes if you have a certain amp applied, you'll shoot these fireballs out from your feet when you bounce. And some other amps, like you can attach one to a gun, and I think it's called the Twist of Fate. And occasionally, when you fire the gun, it will result in this mushroom cloud explosion that will take out a bunch of OD'd. So there's a bunch of things like that, and I think they plan on having like maybe a couple dozen amps. They said there were going to be a lot.
Sure.
So I think you're going to be able to kind of customize your character and your experience and how you play through those things.
Yeah, and have they said, is it strictly single player or is there any multiplayer component?
No, there is multiplayer. I know that there's going to be some co-op elements to the game, but they didn't really talk about any of the multiplayer stuff. It was really just focused on us kind of going into the world and having our own individual experience. And I think that's a big part of it. It's like, I think you'll see, if you see a lot of the screenshots that went up today, you're going to see like this kind of character who looks like the guy who was in the trailer that they released last year. He's just like a skinny white dude. He's got like a denim vest on, skinny jeans, got spiked colored hair.
Yeah, like
me. Right, exactly, like what you're wearing right now. But there's going to be a lot of character customization. You're going to be able to unlock a lot of vanity items, customize your male or female character, their body type, the things that they wear. So you're going to have some pretty colorful characters, I think, that you will be able to better self-identify with than maybe you would in a Ratchet and Clank game or Fuse or Resistance, which have, defined protagonists. This is a little bit more freeform and customizable.
That's awesome. That's very exciting. I'm more interested in it than I was. And what is your like sort of closing thought? Is this a game like, are you more excited before, like having seen it now than you were before, or are you still sort of on the fence?
No, I'm pretty excited about it. This seems to really tap into a lot of the strengths that Insomniac has. Like, it's very colorful, it's playful. It's very unlike Resistance and Fuse, which got kind of grumbly and serious, and doesn't really seem to match necessarily the personalities of the people that work at Insomniac, who are always like bright and cheerful and excited. And I think that that really comes through. That really came through, and when I was talking to the people there, because they seemed more energized by this project than I have seen any other project when I visited them. And I've probably been there 6 or 7 times. And I think they all are like, we're really firing on all cylinders on this game. This is really what we want to do, and especially in light of how Fuse went over the past couple years, they were like, okay,
fresh start.
They were like, we know what we do well, and Fuse wasn't necessarily that game, and we should stick to our guns, which is making really cool guns. And just like have fun and like show the kind of party fun atmosphere that we're capable of making in a game. So yeah, I think it's got some really cool play elements. The shooting is solid. It's got some great like traversal mechanics. It's got like a lot of influence from Tony Hawk and Jet Set Radio, Prince of Persia. So it's a fun game to kind of move around in, and it's just got a really great atmosphere. So I'm pretty excited about it. It really does seem to live up to the trailer that they released last year. And I think people are going to dig it.
Cool. Well, I think you've sold me. I'm definitely interested. And I wanted to thank you for coming on today's Friends List. It's always a pleasure.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I can't be out here more often.
Oh, shucks. Quite all right. Thank you all at home for watching. We are here every weekday at 4 p.m. Eastern with Friends List. All the latest topics, all the latest games, lots of stuff for you to enjoy. Tune in. We'll be here all the time.